Happy Friday. Thank you for joining me today. If you are on live, and hello if you're on the replay. I know it's quite early. We're doing a nice bright and early one today. Yeah, a lot of people were like 8:15. Are you joking? But I'm an early bird. Yeah, so Inbaal might be a little bit late because obviously she's doing the school run. I don't have children, so I'll just have to get the cats sorted out. So, so we will wait for Inbaal to join us. But in the meantime, as I say, happy Friday. Today we're talking about tapping into your intuition and your inner wisdom and how that can help you in your business. Obviously, it's going to help you with your business decisions and help you with the growth of your business and stuff like that. But it's something that's often overlooked. I mean, you do hear a lot of these big entrepreneurs out there saying that, you know, they trusted their gut and they had these instinctive moments where they just absolutely knew what they had to do. So there's a lot to be said for that. And regardless of what you believe, whether you believe in, you know, the more spiritual side of things in terms of that inner wisdom, intuition, you know, higher self, all of those sorts of things, or whether you see it as more scientific, like the fact of the matter is we all have that ability to tap into our intuition and our instinctive, innate knowing, if you like. So, you know, obviously we all want freedom, we all want fulfillment and everything like that, but bridging the gap between where you are now and where you want to be, this is where your intuition is absolutely crucial for you to move through that kind of area. So we're really going to be focusing on that area today, because sometimes it does feel like you're stuck in treacle, doesn't it? You're like, you know where you want to go and you're where you're at and you're like, how do I get there? But cultivating this intuition is really going to enable that kind of growth throughout that gap. So it helps you with recognizing, you know, not just who you are and what you want and everything else, but gives you clarity on the path on how you're going to get there. And it, for me, the most important factor is really that it allows you to cultivate that trust, which I always bang on about trust, don't I? So having that intuition, it really helps you to listen to that inner wisdom and, you know, enables you to overcome self-doubt and stuff like that. So again, they're all fabulous reasons for you to start to cultivate it and tap into it, because it's not something that, you know, some people have and some people don't. We've all got that ability. For some people it comes easier, some people have more trust within themselves, and then there's other people that might be second guessing their intuition, second guessing themselves, or not being able to differentiate between the various voices in our head, so to speak. I don't want to sound like a lunatic. But, you know, we've all got you know, various different voices that might speak to us at certain times, and differentiating between, you know, maybe the mind monkeys of self-doubt that are saying, no, don't do it. And the intuitive, you know, the voice of wisdom and the voice of reason that says, you know, so differentiating becomes really important as well. So, you know me, if you want to grow your business or you want to pivot into that purpose-led shit that lights you up, then download my freebie, which the link's in my bio, or DM me. My DMs are always open. If you want to work with me, obviously, you can DM me as well. So today we're going to be touching upon some practicalities, some pragmatics, some practical ways that you can develop and cultivate your intuition, but also Inbaal and I are going to sort of freestyle it a little bit. I have got extensive notes, but I'm always, you know, awful for going off script, so that's part of why you love me, isn't it? I want to introduce you to the wonderful Inbaal, who is psychic tarot reader extraordinaire. I can 100% vouch for that, and fellow witch. Her readings are ridiculously accurate. You might have seen her on the telly, you might have seen her in the papers or in magazines. She's a wonderful human being and a good friend, and I love her millions. So let's get her on, shall we, people? Good morning.
Morning.
Beautiful. How are
I-
you?
I'm great. How are
I'm
you?
very, very good, thank you. I'm very sprightly considering the time.
Yeah, tell me about it. Yeah, I'm existing on very little sleep, and now you can too.
Yesterday, my cat woke me up at 10 to 4 in the morning, and I didn't go to sleep till gone midnight because I'd had too much coffee yesterday. And I was just like, no, so yesterday I survived on about, 3.5 hours sleep. I don't know how I did it, but I was really energetic all day. It was one day, when you're overtired and you're like wired.
Yeah, but then you get to like 7 p.m. and you think, yeah, it must have gone midnight. It must, surely it's gone mid.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Inbaal, do you want to introduce yourself to those, people who might not know you? I know we've got a lot of mutual, crossover with people, but yeah, introduce yourself.
Absolutely. So, my name is Inbaal, and if it sounds like a curious name for you, I come from Israel originally, and I've been living in the UK since I was 20 years old, which is a long time ago. I work with tarot cards, and being a tarot reader has been my full-time job for 23, almost 24 years. And before that, I spent about 5, 7 years learning the tarot and kind of developing my skill. And I've been teaching tarot since 2001. It's a massive passion for me. I feel like it's the perfect divination system because it's got everything in it. It's got astrology, numerology in the tarot. It's got color therapy. I literally know body language because some tarot decks are so exuberant with how they express it. And I love people. And I'm also very, very curious. So when I do a reading, I want to find out if it's cheating. I want to find out if you should run your own business. I want to find out if you're moving countries, let alone what you want to see. So I feel so privileged that I get to do this for a job and I enjoy it so much. I'm so thankful. The TV that you've mentioned, I've always been involved in the media in some shape or form. So I'll either do predictions, sometimes for magazines, historically for TV shows, even reality, or I'll deal with astrology in the papers. And whereas the high profile work is very glamorous and it's a lot of fun, what I really enjoy is sort of getting down and dirty with the clients and finding out exactly what's going on and helping people fulfill their potential. And that's where your work and my work align. So I can show you where you're going and you can take people there by the hand.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I would say as well, I mean, the biggest takeaway for me from having a reading with you, which was, God, some time ago, that was the end of last year. So
It
I can't remember,
must have
but
been, yeah.
yeah, I think so. It was that I felt so seen. It was like the level of clarity I had around myself and who I am. On that kind of like soul level, like you
Yeah.
cut straight through the shit and got straight into that bit. And for me, like I'm working with people that I work with, it's all about cultivating that self-awareness. So there's that crossover there as well, I think, which is really, really wonderful. And then obviously, um, once you have the ability to see yourself from that soul level and recognize who you truly are, that then allows you to really, really tap into, not even tap into, but break through any barriers into your own kind of intuition and inner wisdom, which is obviously what we're talking about today. So it kind of all really ties up quite nicely with a neat little bow, doesn't it?
See, it always pays off to have no notes prepared at all, which is which is the way I fly. But actually, because we were going to talk about kind of standing in your own power, what you're saying really taps into something that's always been really important to me. Almost everybody really struggles with saying no. I find it the easiest thing ever because in the same way that you experienced in your reading, I think everybody's amazing the way they are. And because everybody's different, everybody is amazing the way they are, different things suit different people. And so if somebody proposes something to me or offers something to me, if somebody wants to work together in a way that's totally misaligned with who I am, I find it so simple to say, no thanks, that's not for me. I don't mean it's not for the next person or for the person after. I don't mean that it's not right for billions of people the world over, but I find it so easy to say, no, that's not for me, because I think, well, I'm not disappointing them because I am me. You are you. And if things align in a specific way, amazing. You know how much I love saying yes. But if things don't align in a specific way, I think it's a really important part of self-care to say no and not carry guilt and not carry awkwardness and certainly not carry shame into your everyday life.
Absolutely. And then there's that then really kind of nicely goes into the people pleasing aspects of us that we've got, stuff like that. But differentiating between those different voices, I was sort of saying this in the preamble. I think I sound like a lunatic. I'm like, there's all these voices, and how do you know that? What's the intuition voice, and the inner wisdom voice, and the higher self voice versus the mind monkey's voice versus the self doubt voice, and all of that. And I think that the this is kind of like one of the biggest struggles, certainly for people that I know, is they seesaw between in their decision making because they don't have the ability to clarify which is the wisdom versus which is the fear versus, do you know what I mean? So I think,
Absolutely.
yeah, so like when you actually tap into that part of yourself, I think for me, I've always been a very intuitive person. My little, just remembered this, my little quote, I used to say this as a kid. I'd be like, because people always say, you either go with your head or your heart. And I'm like, I don't. I'd go with my gut. But then
Yay. Ah.
it's funny that I've only just remembered that. But I feel like for some of us, I'm not going to say that intuition is more of a natural ability, but the ability to hear it is more natural for some of us versus other people that really it's a whisper to them, whereas mine shouts, yours probably shouts, it's a knowing, isn't it? And for some people they struggle. So what would your kind of your tips or advice be to people who want to start to be able to cultivate an awareness of their own intuition, so right back to basics?
So going right way to basics, if I could divide it into tips, I would start with tip number one, wait. Something's going to come out of your mouth. It might be your intuition. It might be your higher wisdom. It might be fear. Wait. There's no shame in saying, I'll get back to you. There's no shame in doing or the lengthy which is, I've got to think about it. I wasn't expecting you to ask that. One of my power animals is Phoebe from Friends, and she'll say stuff like, I really wish I could, but I don't want to. And I think having that amount of honesty when communicating with people is crucial. I'll give you an example. A couple of days ago, I had a request from a PR company, and I work a lot with PR companies when they have their product and they want to send out like a cute article that says, how's my product going to work for an Aries, for a Taurus? And she sent me a request for about 72 quotes. And I was like, no, she's asking it in the way that I usually do for free, like 2-3 quotes. I'll gladly sort of put it out there. It takes less time than boiling a cup of tea. I know it looks very involved, but it's just the experience doing it. And so I actually left it for a little while because I thought, I don't know how to respond to that. And I started the email back a few hours later by saying, I don't know how to respond to that. You're asking it as if you don't have a budget, and then you're asking me for something that would normally be charged that certain amount. And I think because of that total transparency, she was able to get back to me with total transparency and say, we don't have a budget. We really want to work with you. What can you give us? And I'm doing a thing for her over the weekend. And so having that pause, first of all, to figure out which voice is talking, and then having that total honesty with a person to say, I feel like you're taking the mickey. Or to have that honesty to say, I'm really surprised that you sprung up that question on me. Or really one of my most used Pisces phrases when I go, I'm sorry, I'm so overwhelmed that you asked me that. I feel really flattered and I don't know how to respond to it. So allowing yourself that pause. First tip, wait. Second tip, challenge the voice because different voices respond differently. So for me, the intuitive voice will just repeat the same thing. So the intuitive voice will say to me, got big contracts coming up in September. And I'll be like, can I make it come a little sooner? And the intuitive voice will be like, you've got a big contract coming up in September. And I'll be like, do I need to prepare for it? And the intuitive voice will be like, you've got a big contract coming up in September. So, right? The intuitive voice that wants to give you a message is not really interested in your agenda. So the intuitive voice will repeat things, double down on it. And I get that in a reading as well, because when I read the tarot, I don't necessarily say like the meanings on the card. Oh, there we go. My friend Mustafa Taro says completely agree. And he is such a gifted, gifted guy. So you know exactly what I mean. So the message is the message.
Yeah.
The loudest voice sometimes is fear. And so fear will say to you, I don't want to do it. I can't fit it into my day. And when you argue with the fear voice, it backs down pretty quickly. The fear is not as courageous as it wants to say it is. So let's say fear. So if you get offered, I don't know, say a 2-day job away from home, which to me is really, really scary because I hate being away from my children. Not that pleased that they're at school right now. I'd rather they were here and I had someone to play with. So say I'm offered a really good job that's overnight, and the fear goes to me, oh no, everybody will die if you're not there. And I challenge the fear and go, you know, you're married. And the fear would go, yeah, but then I'll have to prepare everything in advance. So the fear has all of a sudden changed its tune. It's found something new to reject, something new to resist. So you already know you can beat it because a few chess steps and fear will step away. And I think all the other voices will fall into those two categories. So your higher wisdom voice will say to you, you're about to turn it down. It's better to say yes than no. You know how much you love saying yes. And that wisdom voice might not have that specific message, but your higher wisdom will subscribe to a specific way of thinking. And then you'll have trauma wanting to speak up. And trauma will say to you, remember when you said yes to somebody? Remember when you said yes to somebody from London? And then they took advantage of you. So maybe if you say yes again to somebody from London, that will happen again. And again, you can argue with that voice, and so you can put it um, under the fear category. Sorry, I'm so aware that my accent is slipping into American. The last person I spoke to last night had a really strong accent, and I haven't been able to shake it off
Oh,
yet. I'm so sorry.
I'll get you
I
back
know you.
proper British, don't you worry,
That's
girl.
it. But no, I just realized that at first, like a couple of words slipped, and I was like, okay, that's no problem.
Yes.
But now the entire thing is traveling across the Atlantic, and I feel like I have to explain myself. Everything is normal, guys. I'm just existing on very little sleep. Very, very little sleep. So I will get grounded. I'm going running in under an hour. I'll ground myself again. This voice, it is me. It's not a scammer.
So going back, so that was amazing, absolutely amazing tips there. Like
Thank you.
there's a lot of clarity in there as well. And again, I can draw parallels with the, setting boundaries and things like that. For me, I tend to have conversations with myself all the time. Again, people think I'm mental, but it's these conversations that I have that allow me the clarity to move forward. And the other thing that I do as well, I mean, obviously, I read tarot as well, so I'm like, if I'm really stuck, but sometimes I'm like, the cards need to, I need to consult basically,
Yeah.
because I'm not always like 100% certain. But something that really helps me is tapping into physically how I feel as well. So when
Ah,
the options, the voices that are presenting the options, usually for me, like the intuitive, if I'm listening there, it doesn't always feel completely safe. Sometimes it does feel a bit scary, and I think, oh, so outside of my comfort zone, a little bit challenging. And these are the things that drive growth. So I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And then something else that might feel comfortable, like a fear-based response. You think this feels comfortable, and you think, I don't want to feel comfortable all the time. There is a comfort in discomfort, knowing that you're growing. God, I'm rhyming loads. But
wow.
but the
Sorry, that blew my mind.
but the comfortable, when you feel too comfortable, what good can come from that? Like sometimes you have to question that. So tapping into the physical side of things, and also allowing myself, as you say, the pause and the waiting and the stillness and the space. If I've got an important decision to make, I don't think about it consciously. I will.
Yeah.
I always, and I started to say, people say like, oh, I'll meditate on that. I always say, oh, I'll daydream about that, because when I'm floating around, you know, it's there and it will just come, and then I know. And so it's I think for a lot of people it's really finding your own way. There is no rigid, hard and fast rules about this. It's finding um, your own way of being able to identify that voice, and then choosing to listen, and then choosing to act on it, which can be very, very scary. But you just have to start small. I think for those people that don't necessarily act or trust their intuition, if you start with small steps, think to yourself, what's the worst that can happen? If no one's going to die and your world isn't going to collapse, do the thing, see how it pans out, journal on it, make notes, look back in a couple of weeks and go, and that's when you can start to cultivate that sort of more, let's call it evidence-based trust in that intuition.
Yeah.
So would you
Yeah.
agree with
Well,
that?
super agree. And I think tuning into the body is a real neglected aspect of it, because when we're being spiritual, we're all like up here, but actually we're entire units. I think that's a really important point. But moving on from that really is to, I thrive on changes and challenges. You clearly even more. But some people hate change. And I think, it's important. We started by saying how important it is that each person does what's right for them. And I have a very disconcerting message to people out there that hate, hate change.
Here we go. Truth bombs.
I'm so sorry. Guys, change is coming. Change is coming, and you can make yourself resilient by practicing on small changes. Now, I'm somebody like you who thrives on even making the little changes. Do your hair different. Do you know what I mean? Say you're going for a cup of tea, make it a coffee. Put some syrup in it as well. Destabilize yourself as kind of a spiritual core exercise, so that while you're destabilizing yourself, you're making yourself um, stronger. Because stuff like, for example, it's a really horrible example, but stuff like divorce. So you could be in your relationship and the fear would go, I really don't want to do it. It's horrible, but I just want to stay where I am and carry on with the dream. And your higher voice is kind of going to make sure you're prepared and that you have all the passwords to your bank account. And if you're somebody who hates change, you'll stick with a fear. But the thing is, it might be inevitable. It might be inevitable because the other person will push you to where you are. Same way with careers. Do you know how many scared people I spoke to in 2007, 2008 when the banks collapsed? I had a lot of banker clients at the time, like a lot, a lot, a lot. Man, those people had expensive clothes. I used to have cats and they'd come in the house and see the cats that could jug on. And those people didn't want to change. They wanted to stay where they are. They wanted to wait around for their bonuses, and change was coming. Change is coming. You can be prepared for that change, or you can be not prepared for the change. I don't want to say it's your choice, because if you hate change, you hate change, and I can't make you like it. But I would love so much for you to be strong when it is coming. And it just sort of reminds me of a really funny thing. I used to be friends with a lot of girls. It was like housemates with African girls, and they were like really, really religious. And I was looking at like family photos of one of them once, and I saw her mum in front of a beer bottle, and I was like, oh my God, your parents drink? And she said they're not like from a non-alcohol religion, but she said, my mum has always said to me that if somebody offers you a beer, just take a little bit, so that if you're ever in a situation where you drink unknowingly, or when you're forced to, it's not the first time your body's experienced it. It's not the first, it doesn't overwhelm you. So this is from an elderly lady from, a really remote place, and she's got the wisdom to, you know, tweak herself and destabilize her system, so that if anything ever comes, it doesn't knock her sideways. And I think Sarah, my friend and my client, who is a coach and a trainer, she says it's the same with exercise. We need to shock our bodies by switching up on it. That's how we get results. And yeah, and it's exactly the same, I think, spiritually and possibly also emotionally.
Absolutely. And in business. So, when it comes to,
Ah,
when you're kind of, I always say, new level, new devil. So where people fear change, or they fear a different set of circumstances, people fear the unknown and they get comfortable where they are. All it does is you stagnate. And the frustration is then that you can't do the next thing, but it's like you're holding yourself back because you're not embracing change. So in terms of business, that's going to, I always say you have to get uncomfortable in order to grow into your new normal and your new comfort zone. Of course you do. You can't just go, right, I'm comfortable here, now I'm comfortable here. You have to be completely prepared. And then this is where, like with my clients, we work a lot on like embodiment. So you start to bring in those changes, as you were saying, something as simple as, changing up what drinks you're having and things like that. For me, I know that, I'm going to be moving to Spain. There's been certain circumstances in my life recently where the timing there's a reason, I know I'm not meant to be there right now. That's fine. But I know that I'm embodying it, because every single day there are things that I do as if I'm there already, because the changes are the embodiment and the changes are being made in order to prepare me for the larger change. And as you said, like me and you, I'm a jump straight in kind of girl, because I trust that, what's meant for me is available for me. The next step appears when you need it. There's all of the other reasons, but there is for a lot of people the fear, the self-doubt and all of those things, that voice that sort of takes over. So in terms of business then, how would you say that your knowing and your inner wisdom and your intuition, how has that helped you specifically in kind of building your business and making business decisions for yourself?
now, I run a lot, and I also always look around for messages in the universe. And it goes both ways. So in the same way that you're saying that you're doing things in the way, in the Spanish way, that's something that you can create and there you manifesting that move, but it can also be a way for the universe to communicate to you. So, you know, you could be driving down the road totally normal, and a van that says España with a big flag will go across the road from you. And when I need changes in business and in personal life, because I'm so aligned with what I do that I struggle to see the separation, which is, I suppose, a different problem, but is also very much of the era that we live in, that I define myself by what I do, because my job and my passion are exactly the same thing. So I will get messages when I run. And there was a time in lockdown that I was running a lot. Looking back, I think I may have been having a little breakdown, but you know, that breakdown made me a lot fitter, and my house was really clean. I think any psychologist that would have that would have crossed my way would have been saying, girl, you want to sit down, where is your stack of chocolates? I have no stack of chocolates. um so when I was doing all those runs, I would notice strange patterns, things that were by the side of the road, or a way that an animal would cross my path, very Native American. And those messages, when something strange happens in the same way, consistently, in different places, more than 2 or 3 times, you better listen, or it'll keep happening until you listen. So there's the noticing it, there's the accepting it, acceptance, very difficult stage, and then there's the deciphering it. So specifically kind of the running based messages, there was a time I used to run with a friend, and and also alone, like I said, a lot, and I would notice single shoes, like trainers, by the side of the road. And I'd be like, first time, isn't it weird? How did somebody lose a shoe? What, when they were running, when they were walking? How did they? Oh, right. And there's another one. And it wouldn't be at a real insane rate, but it was noticeable. And then the friend I was running with, like a few weeks after, would be like, have you noticed that there's shoes by the side of the road? And I was like, don't worry, that's my message. But now you've confirmed that it's definitely subnormal. So I had to go and interpret that. And then I understood what it meant, applied it to the business, and that kind of kicked the business up by a lot. And then about a year ago, just maybe a little over a year ago, I would see a lot of dead animals by the roadside. And I was like, what is going on? It'll be like, you know, start with little birds, like loads of little birds, upside down little birds, upside down, it got to bigger birds. And then it'll be like a badger and stuff like that. And I was saying to a friend, this is really confusing me. Why the dead animals, and why can the universe not use a more vegetarian way to communicate to me? And it turned out that that was a personal change that I needed to make within my spirituality. Now, the more you pay attention to signs, the more the universe can communicate with you using that language. And so when a couple of dead animals started showing up maybe a month ago, I knew exactly what it meant. You know, it's like learning a language. I knew exactly what it meant. So in business, one of the big ways is using signs from the universe. But of course, I have a shortcut because I have a lot of clients. And if I've got a whole day of readings and all of them have the same message, all of them are being told it's time for you to launch something new, or it's time for you to get on with more writing. Once you've had 3 or 4 in a week that say the same message, then you better believe that the message is there for you. So that's a real shortcut, and that's a real easy shortcut. It's a very privileged shortcut, but that can also apply if you do any kind of job, so that if people come and kind of confide in you, if there's a cooler moment when you're just kitchen moment where somebody comes and tells you their problems and you know the solution for them, and then somebody else comes and tells you the exact identical problem and it's the same solution, and it happens again. You're like, wait, I
Yeah.
think maybe this one is mine. So listening, processing, accepting, paying attention, asking for those messages, they'll come. They'll come. And it's so much easier saying yes to messages than saying yes to actual opportunities and change. Saying yes to messages just means that you're willing to
Yeah.
listen. It's fun.
You're 100% on the money there, and it's so funny. All through this, I'm thinking, you know, with like the work that I do with my clients, what we do, I tend to tell people to keep a journal because, firstly, it helps you to tap in. So it's I say, set the tone and get in the zone. So for me, every morning it's journaling. I like rhyming, you know me. I'm a copywriter, you know, through and through. It's just wordy. Yeah, so it's like, yeah, you get in the zone, you set the tone, and that allows you, and it's obviously there's some manifestation stuff in there as well, but really it's about connecting to yourself. But also, I keep what I call a synchronicity journal as well, so that when you do receive these signs, it's, as you were saying, you know, it's about acknowledging them and, you know, identifying that it's that message is for you, and then the deciphering of that message so that you were able to have that shortcut to communicate with the universe. If you've kept a synchronicity journal, you don't have to, for people like me, sometimes it's not all, you know, you're all in your head, you've got too many other things to think about, so I jot it down and then I can just forget about it. And then I'll come back to it and go, holy fuck, you know, there it is, shit, right? And it's brilliant and I love it, and it makes more sense when I look at it retrospectively. In the moment, I find it more difficult to decipher what things are meant, you know, but then I'm like, okay, a week later, and I do the same with readings and stuff like that. And then, funnily enough, you saying that about readings, I did a reading for a friend and a client on last Saturday, it was. And as the cards were coming out, I was like, and she said to me, it was absolutely on the money for her, but she said to me, I feel like this applies to you. And I was like, right. And so, and it was just, the parallels were absolutely uncanny. And it was, it was fascinating. And then her partner came to pick her up and she'd had a couple of drinks and she's like, do a reading for him as well. And I did. And he was, wow. And it was all relevant to his job and his like new, like promotion and like all this stuff. And I was just, I don't know, it was sort of random, but it was brilliant. And it's in those moments sometimes, again, it comes back to the not necessarily being in your masculine and being in your analytical, methodical, pragmatic mind. Sometimes you just have to go with it, let it be, see what comes up, see what happens. And that is scary for a lot of people. But when you are doing that, you are still working on your fear responses. You're still saying to your fear, cough, I'm not interested. I'm going to do this thing regardless of what happens. And it's those things that help you to cultivate that intuition, the inner wisdom, listen to it, acknowledge it, do something with it, act on it, take that aligned action, and then you can bring it back into, you know, the varying different realms. So, you know, all right, okay, on this earthly realm, and then I'm talking upstairs, next door, and, you know, in the other room kind of thing, where all of the, that's how I refer to the different realms. I'm like, oh, that's come from upstairs. Oh, that's come from next door, you know. Or it comes from within as well. So that's the other thing, isn't it? But I mean, funnily enough, actually, when me and you, when you did my reading, one of the things that made me feel incredibly uncomfortable and I didn't want to acknowledge, you said to me that my own natural gifts, you said that they don't come through me, they come from me. And I was like, I don't like that idea at all, because I've always attributed it to outside of myself. But since having that reason and acknowledging that, and since you kind of, it was a gift, you know, you gave me that gift, and I sat with it and I felt truly uncomfortable with it. But over time, I've lent into that and I've started to trust that. And since acknowledging that part of myself and accepting that part of myself, I'm like, okay. And you gain an inner strength and a confidence and sort of an unshakable ness. Like, I've got no trouble saying no to people. So again, it's setting the boundaries and stopping people pleasing. I've got absolutely no qualms about saying this is my process and this is how I'm going about it. I don't give a shit how you've done it or what your results have been. For me, this is what I'm going to do, you know, and I don't
Yeah.
give a fuck if you're questioning it. I'm not, you know, all right, yeah, cool, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you for the help. Yeah, okay. And then I'm like, go and do it my own way anyway, kind of thing. And embracing that now, knowing that's part of who I am, and that is then what I work with my clients on as well, because it truly is a gift. I mean, you're naturally like it. I think it's an innate part of who you are. But to be able to cultivate that with other people, I think is you know, incredibly powerful.
Exactly. And it's first of all, like, shout out to how much fun your sessions sound. So you drink.
Yeah, but yeah, bring
Like,
me a bottle of prosecco.
everybody's drinking, boyfriend's coming in, tarot cards flying in the air. It sounds like the best coaching I've ever heard of. But yeah, this actually kind of reels it back, because I was kind of being mindful of people for whom change is not natural, it's not fun, it's not a process that they enjoy. But actually, like you're saying, everything is learned. Everything is learned. And I personally never felt like somebody who was incredibly gifted at spiritual stuff, ironically, because I think I grew up in a very regular household, very sort of hardworking, secular, didn't really have anything to do with spirituality. So I thought, you know, I'll just learn. I'll just work harder than everybody else, learn, and, you know, become the best I can be. And I think it's the same for change, for stopping people pleasing. You learn the basics, you figure out a way that's right for you, and then you practice, practice, practice. And so for people who don't necessarily enjoy the process, still acquire the skills, still get really good at it, because it'll benefit you. You know, I spoke about how much I run. It's not that I hate it. It provides me with a very welcome timeout. But do you really think I wouldn't switch it for a timeout in Costa down the road for an hour a day? Sure, I would. But it's good for me, and I know that anything that makes me stronger physically and mentally benefits me in the short, in the medium, and in the long run. So what you're saying about acquiring the skills and about sort of teaching people how to do that, I think is so valuable, because yeah, you still get to be who you are, but don't you want to be a little stronger? Sure, you don't have to alter yourself, but don't you want to be the best version of you that you can be? I know I do.
Yeah, and it is, as you're saying, you know, it is, you can acquire the skills. It is a learned skill as well, but it's something that's already there. You know, it's not something you have to. It's not brand new. It's already there, and it wants to come out. You have to just lean into it. And for those of us that enjoy that, you know, it doesn't have to be hard work. That's what I woke up this morning in my mind. The first thing that popped into my head was, this shit doesn't have to be hard. You can choose. You can choose, like, you know, how many difficult things have you done in your life? You've done them. You can do difficult things. So surely they're easy by now, people. You know, oh, I'll choose for this to be easy for me. Okay, so what have I got to do? Oh, I've just got to think about it. You don't have to do anything more, really, do you? Just like, oh, just like, I've just got to allow it. I've just got to receive it. Let it come. And acknowledge, you
Absolutely.
know,
I'm I'm not a very physical person, which doesn't really come across. So I'm not a very physical person in that I'm very risk averse. I've always been very risk averse. I wasn't a particularly sort of strong or athletic child. When I was 20, I literally sort of broke my ankle just walking. And in the big snow in March, my dad was coming. We got stuck on the motorway, bringing him back from the airport for like 10 hours. Had a little nap, and then the kids took their toboggans to the golf course to go down the thing. My dad's 73. He's like, can I have one of yours? And he's going down the hill and he's like, you go. And I hate it. I hate it. I hate going fast. I hate for my body to sort of go ahead of me. I hate not knowing how or where I'm going to stop. And I was like, give me that thing. And I'm sitting in it and I don't want to do it and I don't want to do it. And I can feel like my boots digging into the snow to slow me down, to maybe sort of send me out, but there's no sending me out. This is a woman hurtling down. And I was like, hating it, hating it, hating it. But I'm doing it. I'm doing it because I'm having the experience. I'm having fun with my kids. I'm having fun with my dad. I like snow. And nothing bad can happen. Nothing bad can happen. There are 3-year-olds hurtling down the same hill in the same bit of plastic that we bought in the same cheapo store. Nothing bad will happen. Give it a go. Give it a try. I don't like slides. Do I go down slides? All the time. All the time. I don't like them, and that's really okay. You don't like job interviews. I'm very sorry. I don't want to be the one to break it to you, but you're going on job interviews. So just brace yourself and do it. Treat yourself afterwards if you need to. What's your poison? But you're going to do it anyway. So you might as well do it wanting to do it. And like you say, you've survived 100% of difficult things that have been put in your way so far. You'll survive this one too.
Yeah. Absolutely, and I think that often as the Stoics say, the obstacle is the way. So recognizing the obstacle and then saying, okay, well, this is a clear marker for me to say, okay, well, I need to move through this. Sometimes you can go round it if you need to, if you've got to get somewhere a bit quick, like fuck it off to one side, don't worry too much, but come back to it later. That's how I kind of see it. But most of the time you can move through these things because sometimes it takes discipline or grit, determination, the persistence. There are these qualities that we have. And I think people, especially in the sort of spiritual or soul-led business world, the people talk about ease and flow quite a lot. Flow, as far as I'm concerned, is challenging, and it's challenging enough to keep you hooked in the moment. Ease doesn't mean easiness, and that's the other thing. For me, I don't want easy. Easy is dull, boring bullshit. I like to strive. I like to, I want to be challenged. If I'm not challenged, back in the day when I was employed, in the employed world, I used to leave jobs all the time because after a few months, it's too easy, I'm bored. And then I'd get called lazy, you never stick at anything. I don't like it anymore, it's boring. I need to be stimulated. I need to be that's fun for me.
But tell me you should be self-employed without telling me you should be self-employed.
It's funny, the last job I left, when I handed my notice in, I just went up to my boss. My boss wasn't there, so it's like the boss above her. And she looked at me and she's like, you've got an envelope. And I was like, I do. And she said, right, smoking shelter now. And so we went outside because we're both smokers. And she looked around like this and she took the envelope and she went, it's about fucking time, Louise. And I was like, go on. And she said, you need to be out there doing your thing. And I was like, what validation. And funnily enough, just very randomly, I've just opened my WhatsApp on my laptop to send myself the image to download after we've finished. And that client friend that I was talking about has literally just sent me a message on WhatsApp, the one from last week. So I'm like, synchronicities.
Yeah. What's the message for you? Maybe you should be serving drinks to all your clients.
Wow. For that.
The cocktail coach.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Oh God. So anyway, Inbaal, I'll tell you what, it's been absolutely amazing having you on. I think
thank you.
Or obviously what I'm going to do, this live will be uploaded. Anybody who wants to, work with you, who follows me, just Inbaal, you have this absolute pain in the arse thing where people keep on creating fraudulent accounts for you, and honest to God, it's So there is one fucking account, right? And that's the one that I follow. So for anybody who out of my lot who wants to follow you or get in touch with you, your DM, I know your DMs are always open so people can contact you that way. For anybody that doesn't know me, come and give me a follow. My DMs are always open as well. I've got a freebie that you can download in my bio. The link's in my bio, which is all about beating your own bullshit, embracing who you are, getting shit done for women in business, or well, primarily women in business. But if any men want to have a look, it's applicable as well. So yeah, so it's been brilliant, and I think that this is something, you know, this is a fascinating topic, and we could talk about this all day, can we?
We could, but thankfully we've got thriving businesses to get back to. We've got loads of really lovely comments, so we're seeing them, we're reading them. Thank you so much. We're just not interacting a lot with everybody because we had such a lot to get through, because it's like the biggest topic. We could do like a year-long series about it. But yeah, thank you so much for inviting me, and it has been amazing.
It's been a joy, and yes, thank you to everyone who's joined us live. So all of these lovely comments that we've seen, as you say, like we haven't been able to, it's really hard to sort of talk, and I mean, for me, I get derailed so easily. I take myself off on tangents, so if somebody else comes in, I'm like, bye, I'm off over here on the magical mystery tangent tour that I like to take people on. But what happens is, obviously, when I upload this live, none of those comments are going to be there. So for anyone who's watched us live, or for anyone who's watching the replay, if you've got anything to ask us or say or anything like that, pop a comment in the actual replay once it's posted. You know, anybody's got any questions or queries or whatnot, then, or just random comments, or just to tell us we're wonderful. Thank you very much to all of you, lovely lot, for joining, and thank you, Inbaal. It's I love you. You're amazing.
Thank you. Love you back.
I hope you have a lovely day, and yeah, I'll catch up with you soon. Bye. Everyone.
Bye.
Bye.